Welcome back, Deep Divers. Today we're tackling some seriously big concepts. Self, freedom, the kind of stuff that really makes you think. And to guide us, we're diving deep into the wisdom of Sri H.W.L. Poonja, better known as Papaji.
Oh yeah, Papaji's teachings are really something else.
They really are. We'll be exploring his book, The Truth Is, which, by the way, is a pretty bold title.
Well, he doesn't mess around. And the thing about Papaji's approach is he doesn't see freedom as this thing you got to work for, like a reward at the end of a long journey.
Right, right. It's not about achieving something outside of yourself. It's more about remembering something you already have.
Exactly, like uncovering a truth that's been there all along, just hidden beneath the surface.
And the book starts off with this incredible line. You are love dancing as emptiness. I mean, wow. Talk about a powerful image.
It's poetry, sure, but it's not just pretty words. That line, it really captures the essence of what Papaji's all about.
So it's more than just a poetic metaphor. It's pointing to something deeper about our true nature.
Absolutely. It's saying that at our core, we're this pure consciousness, love, and awareness, existing before any idea of a separate self or the world around us even comes into play.
Okay, I have to admit, that sounds a little paradoxical. How can we be love dancing and emptiness at the same time?
It is a bit mind-bending, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it often comes down to how we understand emptiness, because in this context, it's not about nothingness.
Yeah, I was going to say, that doesn't sound very appealing.
No, not at all. Think of it more like potential, limitless potential. Like, imagine a blank canvas before an artist starts painting. That's kind of what emptiness is like.
Okay, so it's the very foundation of creation, the source from which everything arises. I'm starting to get it. But where does the love dancing part come in?
So Papaji emphasizes that this emptiness, this pure consciousness, it's inherently joyful, full of love. It's like the very essence of our being.
So we are this love dancing is emptiness, but somewhere along the line we've kind of forgotten about it.
Exactly. We get so caught up in the physical world, in our thoughts, emotions, experiences, that we lose sight of this fundamental truth.
We get distracted.
We do. We really do. And then we start believing that happiness comes from all the external stuff. Achievements, possessions, relationships, you name it. But Papaji's saying that's not where true fulfillment lies.
Because it's already within us.
Exactly. And there's this powerful quote where he says, consciousness is in every atom of everything in the universe. It, you, resides in here, and this is consciousness. Everything is in here, and this is everything, and even space and time derive their existence from it. Wow, it's a lot to process.
It is. There's a lot packed into that one statement.
Right. It speaks to this concept of non-duality, which is central to his teaching.
Non-duality. Okay, break that down for me.
But basically, it's the idea that there's no separation. Like, ultimately, there's no real division between ourselves and everything else. We're all interconnected, all arising from and sustained by this one consciousness.
Wow, that's a pretty profound shift in perspective. So are you saying true happiness and freedom come from recognizing this inherent non-dual nature?
Spot on. It's not about chasing something outside ourselves, but about tuning into what we already are deep down.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we shake off this illusion of separation? Like, is there some secret technique or practice that can help us awaken to this truth?
Papaji's not really about complicated practices or rituals. He keeps it pretty straightforward. He starts by pointing out how our thinking minds, the way we label and categorize things, can actually block us from seeing reality clearly.
Interesting. So our own thoughts are the obstacle.
In a way, yes. There's this passage where he says, name and form hide reality. This is the teaching. Giving name and form is an obstacle to freedom because then the substratum, consciousness, cannot be seen.
So the way we label and categorize things, the way we think about the world, that's what's preventing us from seeing the truth.
Exactly. He's saying that language and concepts, while useful for navigating the world, can also create a sense of separation where none truly exists.
Like we're building these mental walls between ourselves and everything else.
Exactly. It's like we're creating our own little prisons, trapped in our own limited perspectives.
I've definitely felt that way before. Stuck in my own head, you know?
Oh, we've all been there. And to illustrate this point, Papaji uses a really helpful analogy, the analogy of a ring and gold. He says, name and form can never leave consciousness. See, and you can never leave the gold. Name and form won't see the gold. Even space rises in this ocean. Before space rises, it is because only self is.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this ring and gold thing.
So picture a gold ring. The ring, the form, can't exist without the gold, right? It's the gold that gives it substance.
Right, makes sense.
Well, Papaji's saying it's the same with everything in the universe. All forms, all the things we see and experience, they can't exist without consciousness.
So consciousness is like the gold, and everything else is just a temporary modification of that gold.
You got it. We get so fixated on the individual forms, like the ring, that we miss the vastness of the consciousness itself, the gold that everything arises from.
It reminds me of all those times I've felt trapped in my own mental patterns and habits, like that's all there is.
We all experience that. But instead of offering some complicated technique to break free from those patterns, Papaji does something really interesting. He points us back to the present moment.
Back to right now.
Yes. There's this passage where he says, "This moment is not light or self. This present moment is bondage, is freedom. It is most precious beyond ideation." He's saying that freedom isn't some far-off goal. It's available right here, right now.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah.
This very moment is both bondage and freedom.
Exactly. But our thoughts, our attachments, our clinging to the past and the future, they obscure that freedom.
So if we can let go of all that mental baggage,
Yeah.
we can tap into this inherent freedom that's already here.
That's the idea. It's about releasing the need to control, to fix, to become something other than what we already are.
There's a section in the book titled The Sat Guru. I've heard that term before, but I'm not exactly sure what it means. Can you shed some light on that for me?
Sure. The Satguru is basically the true spiritual guide, someone who embodies and points towards the truth within.
So like a teacher or mentor who can help us on this path of awakening.
Yes, but it's more than that. A true Satguru isn't attached to form or dogma. They simply embody the truth so clearly that a seeker's mind is naturally drawn to it. Just being in their presence can be a powerful catalyst for awakening.
It sounds like Papaji himself was considered a Sat Guru by many.
He was. People from all over the world flocked to him, and many experienced profound shifts in consciousness just from being around him.
That's incredible. I remember there's a story in the book about a lion and donkeys. What's the significance of that story?
It's such a brilliant illustration of how societal conditioning can obscure our true nature, and how a Satguru can help us break free from those limitations. It goes like this. There's this lion cub that gets raised by a bunch of donkeys.
Wait, a lion cub raised by donkeys. That's quite the image.
Right. And because the cub grows up surrounded by donkeys, it starts to believe it's a donkey too.
So the lion cub completely forgets its true nature.
Exactly. It adopts the donkey's habits and behaviors, even though it has the heart of a lion.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. So the donkey represents our conditioned mind, the part of us that's been shaped by societal expectations and limiting beliefs.
You got it. And the lion represents our true nature, our inherent freedom and power.
And the wise lion that shows the cub its true reflection, that's like the Satguru, right? The one who awakens us to who we really are.
Exactly. And that awakening often requires questioning everything we've been taught and conditioned to believe, like taking a good hard look at those donkey-like beliefs and seeing if they're actually true or just illusions we've been carrying around.
So how do we start to identify less with the donkey within us and more with our true lion-like nature?
That's where satsang comes in.
Satsang. You mentioned that earlier. Can you remind me what that means again?
It means association with truth. And it can take many forms. It could involve spending time with a Satguru, reading spiritual texts, or even just recognizing truth within yourself.
So it's about creating space for that inner wisdom to emerge.
Exactly. And Papaji says that even the desire to be in satsang is a sign of grace.
Grace. What does that mean in this context?
It means there's a yearning for something deeper, a recognition that there's more to life than what we typically experience, like an inner nudge towards awakening.
I can relate to that. I've definitely had moments where I've felt that yearning, like there's something more to life than what I'm currently experiencing.
We all have. And those moments are precious. They're invitations to dive deeper, to explore the truth that's always within us.
I love how Papaji encourages us to be naked in satsang.
Oh yeah, that's a classic Papaji line.
It's so powerful, though. He's not talking about physical nudity.
Yeah. No, not at all. He's talking about coming to satsang without pretense, without masks, without agendas, like being completely open and vulnerable, willing to let go of all our preconceived notions and beliefs. He says, "I dreamed I came to satsang naked. Satsang is the Garden of Eden where you must be naked. You must even be free of nudity. Remove even nudity, which means remove the ego. No dress and no nudity will really be a good satsang. Then you will see what I speak about.
It's like you saying, leave your baggage at the door, come as you are.
Exactly. And when we can do that, when we can drop the act and be authentic, that's when true transformation can occur.
It's a beautiful image. And he also talks about removing our heads in satsang.
Right. Not literally, of course, but it's about letting go of the ego, that sense of separation and individuality that creates so much suffering. It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected, part of something much bigger than ourselves.
And he describes the mind as full of dirty things. What do you mean by that?
Well, he was pointing to how our minds are often cluttered with negativity, self-doubt, limiting beliefs, all that stuff that weighs us down and prevents us from seeing clearly. He says, now my mind is coming up with the game. At least you can see them, but dirty things are coming into your view now. I am not good enough.
It's like we're carrying around all this mental baggage that we don't even realize is there.
Exactly. And through satsang, through associating with truth, those dirty things can be cleared away. It's like a process of purification, a cleansing of the mind and heart.
It's interesting that he talks about satsang fulfilling desires. What did he mean by that?
He wasn't talking about fulfilling desires in the conventional sense, like if you go to satsang, you'll get a new car or a bigger house.
Right.
It's more about the seeker's mind aligning with the truth. When that happens, desires naturally fall away or are fulfilled in a way that aligns with our highest good.
So it's not about getting what we want, but about wanting what we get.
Exactly. It's about surrendering to the flow of life, trusting that we're always being guided and supported even when we don't realize it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
He also tells that story about a man who was so attached to his possessions that he missed a precious opportunity. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, the story of the man cooking rice. So this man is cooking rice, and a sadhu, like a holy man, comes by and warns him that the river is overflowing and his house is in danger.
And the man's reaction is?
Well, he's so preoccupied with his rice, with making sure it's cooked perfectly, that he ignores the sadhu's warnings.
Oh, no.
I know. And of course, the river floods and the man loses everything.
What a powerful metaphor for how attachment can blind us to what's truly important.
It's a reminder that true wealth doesn't lie in material possessions, but in recognizing our true nature, which is free and limitless.
It makes me think of all the times I've clung to things or situations that weren't serving me simply because I was afraid to let go.
We all do it. It's part of being human. But Papaji's teachings remind us that true freedom comes from releasing our attachment. Right. This represents those who are close to freedom but still holding on to subtle attachments. They might have a deep understanding of the teachings, but there's still a part of them that's clinging to the illusion of a separate self.
And the fourth type of fishermen, what are they up to?
The fourth type has gone beyond all seeking and effort. They simply allow the fish to jump into their basket.
They've surrendered completely.
Yes, they've realized that they are the ocean, not the wave.
That's beautiful. So it's not about striving or forcing things, but about allowing freedom to naturally unfold.
Precisely. And that's a really key point in Papaji's teachings. Freedom isn't something we achieve through effort. It's something we discover by letting go.
But how do we apply these teachings in our daily lives? How do we stay connected to this sense of freedom amidst all the chaos and distractions of the world?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll explore further as we continue our deep dive into Papaji's wisdom.
I'm definitely looking forward to that. This is some powerful stuff.
It is, and it's the kind of stuff that can really change your life if you let it.
I believe that. All right, deep divers, stay tuned as we continue our exploration of self and freedom in the next part of our deep dives into the teachings of Papaji.
We'll be right back.
So it's not like we're aiming to become these unfeeling robots, completely detached from the world.
Not at all. No, no, no. In fact, Papaji was really big on the idea that true freedom, it actually leads to greater love and compassion.
Okay. How does that work?
Well, when you recognize that wholeness within yourself, that inherent goodness, you start to see that same wholeness in everyone else. You know, the walls start to come down.
Makes sense. It's like if you're caught up in your own suffering, it's hard to be there for others, to really see them.
Exactly. And there's a great story Papaji tells about a woman who was constantly searching for a guru. She goes on this whole journey, you know, seeking enlightenment.
Yeah, I remember that one. And then she ends up caring for this elderly couple.
Yep. And through that experience, through acts of selfless service, She learns more than she ever could have from any guru. It's a really beautiful story.
It is. I especially love that part where she removes her bangles while she's husking Patty.
Oh, yeah, she didn't want them to see her poverty, right?
And it's such a powerful illustration of letting go of ego, of focusing on the needs of others.
It is. It reminds me that, sometimes we get so caught up in our own anxieties and desires that we forget about those simple acts of kindness, the things that really connect us.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder to shift the focus from me to we.
Exactly, from self-centeredness to selflessness.
So if we want to integrate these teachings into our everyday lives, where do we even begin?
Well, Papaji was all about simplicity, like letting go of unnecessary attachments, really tuning into your inner guidance.
Reminds me of that passage where the person leaves everything behind in Denmark. Like, against everyone's advice, they just listen to this inner call and take off.
That's the one. It's like they just knew they had to follow their own path, no matter how unconventional it seemed.
It takes courage to do that, to break free from societal expectations and just trust your gut.
It does. But Papaji reminds us that we're all capable of that kind of courage. He says we're like birds.
Free to soar.
Exactly. But we gotta be willing to let go of that monkey mind, that constant chatter that keeps us grounded.
Yeah, easier said than done.
Right. He knew that. He compared the mind to a monkey, always swinging from branch to branch. Restless, always looking for the next thing to grab onto.
I can definitely relate to that. So how do we tame that monkey mind? How do we find that stillness?
Well, there's this one analogy he uses that I love. It's the one about holding a monkey by its tail. He says, so how can you quiet it? It is like holding the tail of the monkey so that it will sit quietly. Take hold of the tail of the monkey, and what will be the reaction of this monkey? It will turn and bite your finger. Monkey and mind are the same thing. Then I mentally and silently put forth the question, who am I?
Oh, yeah, I remember that. So are you saying instead of trying to force the mind to be quiet, we should shift our focus? Like, who's doing the thinking?
Exactly. It's not about silencing the mind completely. It's more about shifting our identification from the thoughts themselves to the awareness that's observing those thoughts.
So we become the observer rather than getting caught up in the mental drama.
Exactly. It's a subtle shift, but it makes all the difference. It's like instead of being lost in the movie, you become aware of the screen.
I like that. It all ties back to being present, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Papaji was all about the present moment. He kept saying that freedom isn't something we achieve in the future. It's right here, right now.
But how do we actually experience that freedom? Like, how do we stay grounded in the present moment when there's so much going on around us?
One practice Papaji often recommended was self-observation.
Self-observation. What does that involve?
It's basically about becoming aware of your thoughts and emotions without judgment, just noticing them as they arise and pass away.
Kind of like watching those waves on the ocean.
Yes. He says, so you are ego or self. So from the self, like the ocean, let the wave rise, travel, and fall. They are not other than the self, the ocean. If you are the self, let anything arise from it and don't be concerned with it.
It's a beautiful image. We're not the waves, we're the ocean.
Yeah.
But honestly, sometimes those waves feel really big and powerful. Like, how do you deal with strong emotions when they come up?
Well, Papaji's advice might surprise you. He says, when an emotion arises, be with it until it subsides. You will see that it is just energy coming and going. You are the witness, the awareness that remains.
So instead of resisting those emotions, we should lean into them.
In a way, yes. It's about becoming aware of the feeling without getting lost in the story or the drama surrounding it.
It's like saying, okay, anger, I see you, I feel you, but I'm not going to let you control me.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent residents.
This all sounds like it takes a lot of self-awareness, a lot of honesty. How do we cultivate those qualities?
Papaji was a big believer in being truthful with yourself, even if it's uncomfortable. He says, be honest with yourself, even if it hurts. Don't try to hide from your own shadows. Face them with courage and compassion.
So it's about having the courage to look at our own stuff, even the parts we might not be proud of.
Exactly. It's about facing those shadow parts of ourselves with curiosity and kindness, rather than judgment.
This brings us back to the idea of satsang, doesn't it? Like creating a supportive environment where we can do this inner work together.
Absolutely. Papaji emphasized that satsang is not just about listening to teachings. It's about sharing our experiences, supporting each other on this path of awakening.
It's about creating a community, a space where we can be vulnerable and authentic with each other.
Exactly. He says satsang is not a place for the faint of heart. It is a battlefield where we confront our illusions and awaken to the truth. It sounds dramatic, but it's true.
It's not always easy to face our illusions, is it?
It's not, But ultimately, that's where true freedom lies. It's about breaking free from the chains of our conditioning and discovering our true nature. And we don't have to do it alone.
We have each other.
We do. And as we awaken individually, we contribute to the collective awakening of humanity.
So it's not just about personal liberation, it's about creating a more conscious and compassionate world.
Exactly. Papaji's teachings remind us that our individual awakening is intimately connected to the well-being of all beings.
This has been an incredible journey so far. We've explored the nature of self and freedom, the power of satsang, and practical ways to bring these teachings into our lives.
It's been an honor to share this space with you and explore these profound concepts together.
As we wrap up our deep dive into Papaji's teachings, I'm curious, are there any specific practices or suggestions he offers for cultivating this state of freedom in our daily lives? Are there any specific practices or suggestions he offers for cultivating this state of freedom in our daily lives?
You know, Papaji, he always emphasized self-inquiry, really questioning your assumptions and beliefs, about yourself, the world, everything.
Like questioning everything we think we know.
Exactly. He was big on asking yourself, who am I? But not in like an intellectual way, more like a genuine exploration.
So it's not about coming up with the right answer, but more about going deeper into the question itself.
You got it. He said that by really digging into that question, who am I? You can start to dismantle that illusion of a separate self.
And start to experience that vastness, that interconnectedness we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. He said, the path to freedom is not for the lazy or the faint of heart. It requires a burning desire to know the truth and a willingness to let go of everything that stands in the way. It takes commitment for sure.
It makes me think of that story about the woman who found her guru in such an unexpected place. Like, even while she was doing these everyday chores, caring for this elderly couple, she was able to tap into something deeper.
It's a powerful reminder that awakening can happen anywhere, anytime, if we're open to it.
It's not about escaping the world. It's about bringing that awareness and presence into everything we do.
Exactly. It's about seeing the sacred in the ordinary. And Papaji often talked about the beauty and perfection of the present moment, like really appreciating each experience.
Reminds me of that passage where he says, each moment is a gift, a precious opportunity to awaken to the truth. Don't waste it by dwelling in the past or worrying about the future.
He was all about embracing the now.
Which I gotta say is easier said than done. Especially in our crazy busy world.
Totally. But even amidst the chaos, we can create those pockets of peace. Papaji recommended simple practices like meditation, spending time in nature, even just paying attention to your breath. Little things that can make a big difference.
Just taking a few moments to pause and reconnect.
Yeah, exactly. And as we do that, those moments, they start to expand, It's like those ripples spreading outward from a single drop of water.
I love that. As we awaken individually, we create a ripple effect that touches the lives of others.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the heart of Papaji's message, I think. That our liberation, our freedom, it's not just about us, it's about everyone. He always talked about compassion, loving kindness.
It's like when we see our own inherent worth, we naturally extend that same understanding to others.
Yeah, it's like that saying, hurt people hurt people. But the opposite is true too, right? Healed people, they heal people.
That's beautiful. And it reminds me of something Papaji said. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. It has the power to heal all wounds, to bridge all divides, and to awaken us to our true nature.
He is so right.
This has been an incredible deep dive into Papaji's teachings. His words offer such a powerful reminder of our inherent freedom and potential for awakening.
It's been a joy to share this journey with you.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to continue this exploration. Dive into Papaji's teachings, inquire into your own experience, and discover the boundless freedom that awaits.
Until next time, may you experience the joy and peace of your true nature.
See you on the next deep dive.